Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to Programming Knowledge. And in today's lecture, we're going to talk about how to create user registration form using pure PHP. So this is a 5-video series, and in this course, we'll learn how to create this particular registration. So we have the first name, last name, email address, and phone number, and of course the last one, password. So the technologies that we're going to use are the following: PHP, MySQL. We're going to use the Bootstrap for the front end of our user registration form, and of course we're going to use the jQuery. So let's go ahead and create our new project. Let us navigate to our localhost directory. And create a new directory that will hold all the files necessary for our project. So new folder, and let's name it user accounts. And then inside this particular folder, we're going to define few files for our project. So let's define the index.php. Okay. Chains extension, yes. And also let's define config.php, and also another one for our registration form. So registration.php. So these files will be vital for our project. Config is for the configuration for our database connection. The index.php will be displaying all the users registered, and of course again the registration.php, wherein which our form or user registration form will be displayed or located. So now that we have the basic structure of our project, let's go ahead and edit registration.php to create our user registration form. Okay, so now open up the registration.php, and we have an empty file. So all we have to do is define the HTML structure for this one. So HTML, and if you're using Sublime Text, you can just type in HTML and press tab in your keyboard. Okay, so the title for this one is user registration in PHP. So for now, let's define our user registration form. So we're just gonna define a very basic user registration form, and later on we'll improve the front end by using the Bootstrap library. So let's start with a div, and inside this div, let's define a form. And of course, inside this form, we could define a div for our container. And let's not forget to set the action for our form, which is action. And for now, let's use the registration.php. And the method, let's use post method. So under the container div, let's define h1, and it should say registration. Okay, and a paragraph that says fill up the form with correct values. Okay, after that one, let's define an input with the input keyword with the type text. And for the name, let's name it as first name. And of course, let's define the label for this one. So label for first name, so it should be bold with the keyword first name. And of course, this first name should be required. After that, we could just copy and paste this lines. So label for first name and input text with the type or with the name first name. So let's paste one for our last name, for our email address, for our phone number, and for our password. Okay, so let's change this into last name, this to last name, and of course the name should be last name also. This one is for email address, so email and email for the name or for the name of the input, and phone number, and also the label for the phone number. Lastly is the password, so password and password for the name and label for the password. So let's change this input type into, of course, we're using the password, and of course we're using email for this field for email address. So if we're done with that, let's check our registration.php file in our browser. So go on with our browser and type in localhost and user accounts, which is for our project name. So user accounts and registration.php. So we have here a very basic form or user registration form, and we could see that we're missing a button for our submit. So let's define it in our registration.php file. So input, and then type submit, and for the name is, so for example, create. Okay, so the value for this one is sign up. So save your file, and let's go back to our browser and refresh our registration.php page. So as you can see, we have now the sign up button, and the next step for this one is to actually implement PHP for this user creation or user registration form. So let's go back to our code, and above this div, let's create a new div, and let's open up our PHP tag inside this particular div. And of course, the first thing we're gonna need is to check if the users submitted the form. All we have to do is type in the keyword is set, and with the keyword post, and of course we're gonna need the name of the name of our submit button, which is create, and open curly brace and close curly brace. So for now, let's just check if the submit button is working. Let's type in echo user submitted for us to check if the submit button is working. So let's go back to our browser and refresh our page. Let us see if the sign up button is working. Okay, we forgot that we defined the first name as required, also with this one, and so on. So for now, let's define values for this: first name, last name, sample values, and password. And for email address, of course, we need to set a valid email address and click on the sign up button. So as you can see, user submitted is displayed, meaning our sign up button or sign up submit button is working. So in the next tutorial, we will continue working with this PHP code, and let's work on with our database connection. Thanks.